Yeah, ours we're doing anyway because that's what people watch. All right, what's going on, everyone? We are here for another episode, and we have got a special guest, Joshy Andrews, coached
Good boy.
by Unholy Gains.
Yes. What's good,
And
boy?
and today we're going to go over volume, so individual differences, what people prefer, high and low. A bit of, I'm also touching on protein intakes, and there'll be a few other things and some Q&A. So let's dive in. Joshy, you want to start because you have the biggest input on this at the moment since you're the guest and you've gone to some low volume extremes. So let's hear what you got to say.
Yeah, look, my approach to training, I've done everything you could imagine, bro. I've done everything you could possibly think of. When we were back in, 18, 19, 20, we were watching all the videos, all the Machiavelli bodybuilding videos, and you're just like, I'm going to try fucking everything. So everything you could do, I've done it. And it always seems to come back to the low, for me anyway, personally, the low volume approach. And it seems to line up with the evidence that we seem to get presented with. And it seems to just continue to fucking pay off for me all the time. And I enjoy training. I like showing up, and I'm able to understand what progress actually is for me. I can walk in and out of a gym and I can go, hey, Andrew, I built muscle today. You know what I mean? I have that answer for you, and I'm able to ascertain that in my mind. How often did I used to just go into the gym and just absolutely fucking kill myself for hours at a time just because I thought that, the more pain I can inflict, the more tolerant I would get and the better I would get. And that was a diminishing return for someone with, I believe, a really high pain tolerance. It didn't work out well for me because I just didn't know when to finish or tap out. So my approach is really low volume, dude. And I really enjoyed it. I played around
Just
with it.
when you stipulate low volume, just
Yeah,
put
let's
a
break
number
it
on it for
down. So
people.
let's define that. So defining that, I think, is I think anywhere from approximately 4 to 10 sets per week of a muscle group, I think would
Mhm.
be probably classified as sort of low volume approach. I tried last year to get really in the weeds with it and sort of do one set of everything, and that might have looked like maybe 2 sets of a muscle group per week, and it continued to pay off for me. I think that probably could have done a little bit more because I might have been, like you said, we were talking earlier, I might have been a little bit too fresh.
Mhm.
But I still really enjoyed that approach, and my lifts just consistently got stronger and stronger and stronger. So I really erred on.
Did the strength correlate with growth or just strength?
I did notice that I just didn't lose weight in a very steep deficit for a long period of time. So I believe that I was definitely growing muscle, especially because it was such a shock to the system.
Mhm.
So it was just such a new and novel stimulus for me that I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to get really in the weeds with this and see how it goes. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was enjoying training. I was motivated. I had low fatigue. I had low hunger signals. My sleep was great. All these sorts of new things that really paid off getting into that sort of point. Do I advocate for that level of low volume for everyone? No. Do I advocate that for myself? I don't do that low volume anymore. I do a little bit more. It might be 2 sets of stuff now. So for an example, it might be 4 sets of a muscle group. Any much more than that, bro, I don't feel like I start to get full recovery out of it over the course of the
Per
week.
week, yeah, 4 sets per
Yeah,
week.
so I might do to give that better context. It might be 4 sets for chest on the Monday, and then I might get a decent quality 2 or 3 sets later in the week.
Yeah.
That's sort of my personal maximum level of what I can get away with, seemingly per muscle. I know
Mhm.
chest seems to really struggle with recovery for me anyway, but it seems to be the case. Lats that it really started to come up, they're a total of 8 sets per week, and I seem to just get away with that only just on the second session. So I do try and match that sort of stuff. But look, man, I found that the lower volume I went, the stronger I got, the more enjoyable the sessions were, the less fatigued I was, and it just continued to be a flywheel of success. So
And enjoyment is a big part of consistency.
yeah,
And
of course,
what wins consistency?
look, 100%. The plan, the best plan is the plan that'll work for you.
Yeah.
And that was something that works for me. So I continue to get behind it, not only personally, I'll preach it for most people as well. And that can get into the weeds with the questions of like who is it appropriate for, who is it not appropriate for. But my analogy for that that I think conveys my point reasonably well is a little left field. But if Andrew, I'm going to teach you to drive a car and you're going to get your L's. I'm typically not going to teach you to drive incorrectly.
Mm.
I'm going to try and teach you to drive as correctly as possible. And I personally believe training with low volume, high intensity, good form, execution, etc., is the most efficient and effective way for someone to learn. we might say that someone is a newbie, they should be introduced to a little bit higher volume. I agree, and I see that point, but I want you to learn how to drive as properly and as soon as possible, because as soon as you get your license, do you then go and drive correctly? No, you are taught to drive correctly initially. So for me, I try and leapfrog. I know that's probably not the best way to go, but I try and leapfrog the whole learning curve to just try and get as far as ahead as I can as possible from A to B. And I instill that with all of my clients as well. So that's sort of my approach there too, is I typically don't want to give people too high a volume for a number of reasons, not only the physiology, but also their routine in their life. A 40, 50-year-old guy who's a plumber, who's working hard, family, kids, all the rest of it, he's going to be fucked doing 3-4 sets of shit, doing 10 to 20 sets per week. It just doesn't add up. So again, that's all I see. It's my personal opinion, but I'm a big believer in the low volume approach, getting stronger, good mechanic, like getting your mechanical tension out of your workouts, focusing on your progression, managing your fatigue, and just keep showing up and keeping it simple, bro. Keeping it simple. That's it.
What do you got? You got the same on that, Cam?
No, I think it's just important to remember who, or not remember, or just what audience we're actually talking to. Because I don't think first timers in the gym should be going for a super low volume approach while they're trying to still learn execution and learn the movement patterns. So I definitely think for people who are bodybuilders who don't have to worry about things like being consistent, they're always going to the gym. Yeah, real bodybuilders who want to progress in the sport, I think they should be doing a low volume approach. But I wouldn't say it's suitable for everyone.
Yeah, I'd say my analogy would be more like a little bit different than yours, Andrew. I'd be more learners would be like, I'm going to teach you to drive at 40 k's an hour around the car park. By that doing a few sets, learning the motions, learning how to turn the car, and then as you get faster, as in knowing how to get more intense in the sets and push yourself in correct form, we can go faster. We can go faster, and eventually, when we get to top speed, you don't need to go less because obviously you've traveled a further distance.
Yeah, I
Therefore, less
agree.
sets.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where I kind of donned the term to my guys the other day, which was the micro progressions. We have visible progressions that we can ascertain, which is did I put more weight on today, or did I get an extra rep? Or a micro progression, which might be was it more controlled? Did I do it with a little better speed today? Or is the tempo better? All those sorts of things that you can't really write down very well or ascertain, but you can kind of feel that. So I'm not too sure if a person doing, higher reps or higher volume in comparison to someone doing less reps and lower volume, you might put them in potential to get more fatigued and then have form breakdown and things like that as well. So I think both things run into issues themselves. And I think just getting reps in the gym, I think just equates to getting better at shit over time. Right. And getting more familiar with doing that thing over time is only going to create a better response. So I personally want them to get as familiar as possible with the end goal.
Yeah.
That's where I want them to be.
Which is getting the most out of every set.
Which is getting the most out of every set and as efficient as possible. Right. And again, I can only speak from what I see. It seems to pay off from not only myself, but from what I see from the guys and the girls. And that's great. But, again, that's just my anecdotal experience. It means very little. But look, how many ways is there to skin a cat? Fucking heaps, right? They all seem to fucking work, yeah?
That's right.
And your low volume, is that just referring to sets per week, or is that low volume as in rep range? Or
both. Yeah, but 100% both. So, I got the guys doing, let's say, anywhere from 6 to 10 reps on most things. And then I have them doing typically 2 sets of an exercise, and it might equate to, Cam, maybe let's say 4 to 10 sets per week for a muscle group total, So I believe that's on the lower side of volume, and seems to be, the guys are a bit more serious, have been with you for a few years. And then the guys who are working in their 30s, 40s, busy, seems to work for them too, So if I can get behind that and instill that in them, then I will. And it seems to be an enjoyable thing for them. They always come to me, bro. They're like, oh, I'm doing so much. I'm doing all these sets and all these reps and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, cool, let's just fucking do less. And they're like, They almost feel like the less is bad. I'm like, if we can do less and we can do less better, then we're only going to have a better time of it. And in that, which I'm sure you guys probably do as well, is I believe the highest leverage task a client can do beyond anything that they do is send you footage of their training.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can get you to put $1 in and $1 and get $2 back, well, that's not bad. But if you can put $1 in and get $5 back from me rectifying the main stimulus, which is training, everything is downstream from that, then we're going to have a much better time. So
I always tell people
that's typically the hardest thing to get out of clients too.
Bro, 100%.
Training video.
Like getting blood out of a stone. But when they do, it just takes off, which is mad.
I always tell people at work, I'm like, would you rather earn the same amount and work half the hours? They're like, fuck yeah, I'm like, same as the gym, baby.
Shit.
I'd rather do less work and get the same results. Why?
Yeah.
Why am I doing double the work for the same money?
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to get your head around too, especially if you come from that like old school background of just like more effort equals more results. And then like doing less, like seeing like one set on your training program for an exercise, like fuck, is this gonna be enough? But like it is enough.
Yeah.
I just answer them with the simple thing is like a couple of words. I said, but did you get stronger? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, then we're improving. We're growing muscle theoretically over time, right? So they're like, great. Okay, cool.
Just in life in general, how many times do you see people like just battling, working so fucking hard and going nowhere in life? Yeah, and then you see these guys that's like cruising through life, getting rich, and you're like, it's not always about working harder. It's about working smarter.
Yeah, I think that the gym is probably one of the biggest advocates for that equation. You know, like what I tell the guys too is I'm like, you know, can you walk in the gym with John and John will go train and you'll go train. We'll train our way. John will do his thing and you both walk out at the same time and someone says, hey, John, did you build muscle? Oh, yeah, of course I did. Look how fucking sweaty and tired I am. I can barely stand up. And then, you know, Tim, did you build muscle? Yeah, I definitely did. I feel pretty good. It was a hard session, but I progressed all my lifts. My form was better, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we can fucking tell who built muscle that session in a meaningful way, right?
I even think if like those two people leaving the gym in that scenario, the tired one is going to be he's going to just get more stressed because the fresher one's going to go home, enjoy time with his family,
100%.
not be destroyed mentally, get a better sleep. So it's like all that fatigue carries on where people don't think. You know, like, you can't just leave the gym beat up because it affects the rest of your life and then you lose enjoyment everywhere. And then you start hating everything, you start resenting things, and that's huge. If you're enjoying life everywhere, your gains are going to be better everywhere.
Yeah. And like I think to cap this out, you know, the typical question you see everywhere, which is, well, how much volume and how much sets do I do? It's like, I don't know and I don't care. It's just, it's up to you and what you can get away with. And like what we spoke about earlier, and when Cam, I think, said earlier too, when he was 70, 80 kilos or whatever it was, you know, you could probably get away with a lot less because you're not as strong. But when you get big and fucking strong, you seem to get away with a lot less. Anyway, that's what I've found and see it again and again. So it's just like, you know, it's so relative. You know, if you feel like you could do more, fucking try it. And then if it runs into a brick wall, do less. And usually the answer that I give everyone is usually do less. And it always seems to work.
I remember when I was natural growing up, but before even my first show, I could never lift heavier than 40-kilo dumbbells. And I'd go in every week, trying again. And like after 4 weeks of trying the same weight for the same reps, I'd actually regress.
Yeah.
And then I'd come back, I'd be like, fuck this. I'd have a couple of weeks off, come back, and I'd be like, I'd get 2 more reps.
Yeah.
I needed rest, which means I was doing too much.
Yeah.
Like it takes a lot. You have to really be, especially if you're a newcomer to the gym. Because I wasn't like this at all. So I was that guy. And I just wasn't in tune with what was going on with my own body. Like I was just like, you know, you just go to the gym and you just put in effort and you get results. And like actually paying attention. This was before I was actually tracking this and everything as well. So like actually paying attention to how you feel and like your recovery was like when I really started to make some strides. I was like just a bro, man. Just go in there and lift hard and, you know, just everything was all over the place. You know?
Which I think still has its place sometimes because that's where you learn a bit of intensity in that, you know, first couple of months.
It'll only get you so far until it stops working. And then what do you do after
I
that?
just want to take a quick second at time out the podcast to introduce Amino's Protein. Use code AGHOSTMAN to get your 5% off. Which is why you see so many regulars in the gym. Once they get to a point, they're just the same for the next 10 years.
Because they get married to what worked at the start.
Yeah.
I think I just need to keep doing more of this because this is what initially got me results. But it's like, so they're failing to see that it's not working anymore.
Would it be like buying a Ferrari for 10 grand and then later on inflation happens and you can't buy shit with 10 grand? At the start, you're just like, fuck yeah, I get this massive return from just showing up and doing fuck all fucking everything really. And then all of a sudden it all stops or slows down. And I think we'd probably be able to really increase the length of time of that newbie game of them training in a way that sort of just allowed more consistent progress, or we'd have less people dropping off because they were like, fuck yeah, this is working still, and I'm like 2 years in, this is mad. Look, I think that people would save themselves a lot of issue keeping things really simple. I see a lot of guys, and I like to help people where I can, and sometimes I don't because I just don't feel like they would take it well. But amount of guys doing stuff that I think just is so intricate and nuanced and stuff like that. I just feel like saying, bro, just get really strong on some real basic shit, and it'll give you the physique that you want. Keep it really fucking simple, dude. I think people put too much emphasis in interesting exercise selection and nuance and stuff like that, where I just don't think the payoff is there. It's just not going to pay off. It might pay off when they're newbies, like we said. It might give them that little fucking, yeah, it's going to work, but it's going to slow off really, really fast. And I get frustrated for people because I'm like, man, no wonder you're still here 5 years later at the same gym I see you at, and nothing's equating. Not that that's bad for you, but I feel like you want to improve and it's just not paying off. And it would be a quick conversation to rectify that. But it's an interesting game, that's for sure.
I think they kind of see what the guys are doing who are big, and they're already big, and they're trying to refine their physique by maybe doing some intricate exercises.
Yeah,
but they're not paying attention to what got them that big.
Yeah, and I think that what I seem to run into a lot, when sometimes I put like, I did this workout today, fucking 1 set, 2 set, 1 set, whatever. And they're like, oh, is that including warm-up sets?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that the unfortunate thing that's happened is people have put the word sets after warm-up. I think that's really brainwashed a lot of people to think that they actually equate to something that's meaningful.
Yeah.
It's meaningful in its own right of driving, blood and getting warm and getting everything fucking ready to go and your central nervous system, everything primed for your actual stuff. But the words sets after warm up should not be a words that go together. They don't go together. They don't equate.
It's weird that people even think that way because
they don't even grasp it.
Never even come into my fucking brain.
Yeah.
A warm up counts for anything.
How many warm-up sets? I'm like, I don't know, bro. I just will start with like a bar and then I'll fucking put some weight on. One day I might feel mad and I'll do fuck all warm-up sets. And the next week, I'm feeling bashed up and fucked and I might need 20 of the cunts. Yeah. I don't know.
You might travel to a country it's snowing, you need warm-ups because you're fucking so cold.
Yeah, bro. You're like, oh, chest is a little funny today.
Yeah.
Fuck, I really want to be careful of that. So it's just those little things where it'd be good to just fucking nuke some of this stuff out.
They say keep it simple, stupid, and also they say complexity amuses the small mind.
Bro, the longer I go in this game, the fortunate part is the simpler it is.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this the other day. It was like the more like Sam, what you said, the more I've gotten into it, the less I'm doing, and the less fuckery there is.
Yeah,
it's literally just like. Yeah, you go through your stages of even your training and you want to do like all these different methods of training. And it's like, you know what? Just do fucking straight sets.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Even like you go through the whole, like I've gone through top set back offs and all that sort of stuff now. Yep. And I've even shifted from that to just doing straight sets with the same load.
Yep.
And that's it.
I used to do the same. I'd have a top set, bro, and then I'd have a, it might be a top of 5 to 8. Then you might have a back off of fucking, I don't know, 10 to 15 or something like that. And you're like, oh yeah, a little bit more squeeze and blood flow. It's like, dude, just fucking do the heavier weight. Just have longer break. Like, just do the same, most stimulating thing you can get away with. Just repeat that. So I said this, we chatted on Instagram this week, Andrew, which was, I tried to really break the concept down of how many of these do I need to do, of this movement do I need to do to get a chest?
Yeah.
Not how many sets and how many volume things like metrics over the course of the week. How many of hard of this does it equate to a big chest? I think there is an amount of reps that you do in a week that equates to that. Let's say it's 10 really hard reps in a week causes X chest to grow, but 15 is too much and 5 is too little. So I think we just overcomplicate all of this shit. There's nothing really.
There's got to be an effective rep range because obviously, like you said, you're in a 6 to 10 rep range, and if you're doing your 4 to 6 sets a week, and then every time you hit that 10, you go up a little bit of weight to stay in that 6 to 10 again. So if you're doing, say 4 sets on chest a week at 10 reps, that's 40 reps. But every time you got weight, that 40 reps is harder, so it's still a new stimulus.
That's still living within the confines of the sets principle. So it might be, for example, let's say bench press. Do I do 10 individual sets rep of 200 kilos, or do I do multiple lots of 100 kilos? You see what I mean? So how many of these things really hard do I have to do to get that muscle to grow?
I think you still need to be somewhat proximity to failure to get all the fibers activated.
That's what I mean. Like fucking the slowest 200 kilos, and then it still takes 10 of
singles.
Or is it like multiple bouts of 100 kilos of 5 reps, of them still being slow and difficult to create enough stimulus for that to grow. So I find it, there's like, you could simplify it down to like, how many hard reps do I need to do in a week?
Yeah.
It's just tracking that metric would be pretty hard.
Yeah.
It'd be ridiculous.
I'd rather do 4 sets of chest for like 6 to 10 than do like some singles. That'd take fucking ages.
It'd be painful as fuck.
But there's just like, say week 1 I come back from a deload and Cam's like, keep it 2 or 3 in the tank, no worries. And say I set my numbers week 2, I might not even worry about how close I'm to failure. All I know is I've got 1 rep extra on everything this workout. I'm just going to stop now. And then I know next week, and it always works out that sort of 6 weeks anyway. I'm basically struggling to get progression by that 6 weeks. So as long as I'm adding a rep, I'm like, yep, job done. Pack it up, re-rack it, because I know I'm going to get progression for 6 weeks doing that.
Yeah.
Why? Because there's days where you just feel good. Let's face it. And if I'd be like, okay, I got say 8 reps, and then I go in, I fuck off a good day to get 12. I'm fucked the next week if I have a little bit of a shitty day work.
Doing shit.
So I might as well stop at 9 and know next week I'm definitely fresh enough to get 10. And then 11 and then 12.
Yeah, lately I try to have I've tried to force myself to meet, like, let's say the volume requirement that I want for a workout, right? Let's say like it might be 4 sets for chest, like we said before, Andrew. But like every now and then I have like just a moment where I'm like, all right, if I get a really fucking hectic progression on this, I just don't feel like I'll get any more from the second set other than just digging the hole. So let's say the other week, somehow I ended up getting 5 extra reps with a maximum weight that I only got 10 with the prior week, right?
You dropped the second set. I
just fucked off.
Yeah.
I was like, cool, I'm moving on. I'm not even going to do another one because I feel like that.
The progression's already been made.
That novel stimulus is so profound because it's like, like I said, 5 extra reps with the same weight. I don't even know how that happened. But I was like, I don't feel like the next one would be like, it was so done.
You beat a dead horse.
Just move on to the next thing, and then I'll do that. And then that seems to just equate to consistent progression. So I think you still need to have
some auto-regulation.
A little bit of auto-regulation in that. And for me personally, if I get a mad progression on something on the first one, I will always fuck off to that.
I mean, it doesn't happen often, but when it does.
Yeah.
That's very like, I suppose, like.
We're too calculated at our level, that doesn't happen often.
Like auto-regulatory, like, and I just am trying to explain that to a client.
hard.
Like you just don't do that. Like
We
too
can't
hard.
even get form videos.
It's really funny
If
because
you- yeah.
I did that this week to one of my guys who's been with me since he was absolute newbie, never walked in the gym, right? And I said, look, I want you to try something this week. You said you're stuck on X thing. If you have like a really good lift on it, fuck off and move on to the next thing. And he comes into me with the next check-in. He's like, he's gay guy. He's lovely. He's like, he's so excited. He's like, oh man, I did the thing you told me to do and it was great. And I felt amazing. And I went back in the next week and I did it again and I progressed again. So it's almost goes to show that sometimes it's if you can get away with doing less, sometimes
Yeah.
it seems to be the factor.
My one of my best basketball coaches I ever had was always told me, he goes, sometimes less is more.
Fuck yeah.
Because obviously, I'd go out and train by myself 8 hours just practicing like corner fadeaway threes. He goes, they're not effective when you're tired.
Yeah, look, I have a big I have a little saying where it's like, you could, say practice makes perfect. And you're like, oh, yeah, I've heard that 1,000 times. Well, if you practice imperfectly, you'll get really good at doing it wrong.
Mm.
So that's where I'm like, hey, look, let's just always try and do it as correctly as possible. There's never such thing as perfection, but there is such a thing as doing it as good as possible. So I would rather you do it as good as you can or as possible, as consistently as possible. Otherwise, you'll learn it incorrectly, and then we're just going over here when we're supposed to be going over here.
I follow, obviously coming from uni and that, I follow a lot of still sign up to heaps of sporting emails and, research and a lot of things the last few years has been, I've been looking at a lot of sprinting training and
That's right. That's my background.
yeah, heaps of their training now is like less is more. Like they've dropped off way less in like explosive movements over the week and they're getting faster.
Yeah, I used to go over to California and run with the guys from the universities and stuff over there when I was young. I just wasn't black enough to go to the Olympics,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Well, I was basketball training, so sprint was good for me for fast breaks and jump.
Oh yeah, bro.
Yeah.
We I think the principle really helped me apply that to bodybuilding now, which is I think bodybuilding is, you could classify it as not the marathon. It is very purposeful sprints over the period of, an hour and a half or however long it is. So for us, we do a 30-meter run through. We go and fucking almost sit down for 5 minutes from there to there, but I'm doing it in 2.9 seconds.
Yeah.
And then I'll fuck off and we'll chill out. And then we're like, bro, I was getting bored. All right, we're ready to do it again, So we would, the rest priority was massive.
Because I don't, it's how many clients, people always say, oh, you've got to go hard in the gym. I'm like, you're not growing in the gym. You literally, all you're there is to provide that extra stimulus from last week. You're growing as soon as you walk out that door. So the more time you can spend out, if you can get an efficient stimulus in the gym and then get the fuck out of there, you're gonna have more time to grow.
Yeah. I try and tell them that, the gym, for me anyway, my belief is that everything is downstream from the training. Everything is downstream from the training. The training is the stimulus that's going to help us to get typically the physique that you want is going to come from the training. I can't have you sit in my chair here and feed you 200 grams of protein per day and have you grow muscle. It's probably not going to happen, So if everything is downstream from the training, let's make the most of it, get the most out of it, get home, and then ensure that we can have another productive bout of that once again. So that's how I typically look at it. Yeah, 100%, bro. I agree.
Struggle with clients understanding that they need to rest and sleep.
Yep.
But they just want to do too much, or
yep. Look, if I get in their head early and be like, hey, bro, typically less is more, and don't treat it as if you're going to get less result. It's more so, can I put less, not less effort or less time. It's more so, can I can't remember what I used to say, but it's like, basically, can I put in the amount that is required rather than overdoing it and getting far less repayment? So that you really just got to knuckle that into their head, because I even had a conversation with a guy yesterday, training 6-7 days, no libido, all that sort of stuff. And I said, bro, I'll probably get you training 4 days a week. I reckon you feel mad. He nearly fell over. 4 days a week. What do you mean? That's like half as what I'm doing now. I'm like, bro, I guarantee you fucking feel amazing. So if they can get more quality from less, I do it all day.
Yeah, I've had a client came to me, he's training 7 days. He's like, you're going to hate me. He's like, why? He's like, I train 7 days a week. I'm like, that's why you're not growing.
That's why it sucks.
I said, when do you grow? You're literally in the gym. I said, To me, I tell people, right, the more you're in the gym, the more you're just trying to be fit. You're just basically keeping your cardiovascular up. So if you start training more 4 to 5, the more rest days you have, the more time you have to grow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
then that kind of bleeds back into like, which audience are we talking to here?
Yeah, well, I'm assuming most people that listen to this want to be as big as possible, and they want to be, most people have lives. They're not bodybuilders like us. So, like, as in, like, they are, but they have full-time jobs in life. So, for them, if anything, they want to spend less time in the gym so they can do their life.
Well, I think we could even talk down to what out you could say what population. Yes, I think you could also say
Amateur bodybuilders.
what outcome are we talking about? Are we talking about just putting muscle on someone's frame? Then you can talk to everyone because
Well, at the
then
end of the day, people want results, and the only way to
yeah,
get results is to do. Sometimes they need to do less.
exactly. If I can tell
Everyone wants
you
results.
if I can tell you if you're 20 years old or 80 years old, that if you did this thing and did it in this way, relatively, you are going to get this outcome of putting muscle onto your body. This is a good thing, rather than being like, hey, I'm talking to Mr. fucking Josh when he was 20 and wanted to be juiced out of his mind. I think I can just speak to everyone in the capacity of, hey, if you have any kind of physique goal that entailed you to put tissue on your body, this would be a good endeavor for you to have. And
Here's a perfect example. Say you're pushing for 2 weeks, low days, your weight's not really dropping, you're stagnant. Cam gives me a high day Monday. 5 days later, all of a sudden, I have the biggest low weight ever. Because why? Possibly that high day gave me energy to walk a bit faster. I'm not dragging my feet as much. Those next 4 days, I'm more efficient at using energy from that high day that I lose more fat. So just an example of pulling back one step backwards to go 4 steps forward.
yeah,
When people they train 7 days, they're just always stepping back. Recovery, and they start here, then like recovery hole, recovery hole, recovery hole, recovery. They need like a whole fucking 10 days just to get back to being fresh.
well, it would imagine never not knowing what it feels like to be recovered.
Yeah, that's
That
just
would be
better.
rather frustrating,
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
man.
And
That
yeah,
was me, dude. That was me when I was like 20. Like,
Yeah, I think that's all of us when we first started. More is
somehow
better.
kept showing up. I
Mm.
don't know how,
Yeah, you
but
know
like,
the old saying, there's no bad workout. The only bad workout's the one you didn't do.
yeah, fuck,
Let's
and
just start.
you
It's
feel
been,
guilty. You feel guilty for not going to the
yeah.
gym.
That's why I was telling him before, I have some stuff at nights to help me relax because I need help relax.
I think the conversation, I can't remember exactly what I said here, but there was about that where you said you feel guilty not going to the
Mm.
gym. And I personally love a day off from the gym. I feel or a week off feels like
Yeah.
a fucking holiday. It's the best
The
thing ever.
older and more
Oh,
knowledgeable we get, the
I
better.
do now. Like, I love my rest
Yeah.
days now.
Mm.
I would look at people with everyone's like, I'm so disciplined. I go to the gym every fucking day because it's good for my mental health. I would argue that you have weak mind not being able to step away from it.
Because I know if I have a rest day now, I'm like, oh, I'll go home from work. I can just go home and have a nap on the couch or do
But
some work that's coaching some content or something. Because I know, sweet, when I do get back to the gym, I'll have the energy to have a killer workout and I will progress. So I know it's coming. Whereas back in the day, I'm like, if I don't go, I'm going to lose everything. It's just the wrong mentality.
yeah, my days were like, were very much like that, bro. And I now know that, number one, how the gym shows me that I'm still improving, but it was usually about food, right? If I missed a meal, I'd be like, no, I'd just get the shits and I'd be pissed at the end of the day. My missus is like, what's wrong? And I'm like, no muscle built today, babe. Fucking pissed. And she's like, oh, okay. And you're like, well, I missed a meal. It's fucking nothing's going to happen. I know now there's this massive fucking window of success. And I know, you know what I mean? So just the more you learn, the more that you understand there's a window for success. Maybe it wasn't completely 100% perfection, but I still would have got 98, 99% of the result, So I don't sweat the small stuff anymore.
I still get clients coming to me like, oh, I always slam a protein shake as soon as I'm leaving the gym. I'm like, why? Just go home and eat. Your blood's still in your muscle anyway. Oh, really? I'm like, mate, sometimes I'll go home from legs. I'll have a nap before I eat.
Me too.
Fucking
no rush.
Don't stress.
I'm like, no rush, dude. I will get there when I get there.
The stress will ruin your gains more than anything.
Yeah, I used to be really stressed, bro. I used to do like from the whole sprinting thing, I think it instilled that when like your whole day is predicated on, you know, 0.1 of a second. I think I learned very early that if I did too many physical tasks, that it seemed to maybe 1 or 2 sessions in my childhood might have come back that instilled a poor run, you know, where it was I was slower and where I should not have been. And I think I attached that to poor performance. So, bro, when I was, you know, younger doing the whole bodybuilding thing, trying to get as big as possible, if I had to like mow the lawn and do dumb normal shit, I'd be like, gym's fucked. Not going to go shit session.
You get in your head.
You know, like, just the dumbest shit, you know. And now it's just like, dude, you could fucking walk a goddamn marathon and still go train legs later and have a decent set. Just get over yourself. Right?
Yeah, when I walk in the gym now, I don't think about if I've had a shit sleep, the weather's been like, how shit work's been, if I've had bad calls, stress. I just walk in and be like, look at my numbers. What did I do last week? Right, I'm here to beat that. That's all. That's everything's irrelevant outside the gym.
100%. And I think that a good thing to say here is, like, I like to help the guys take a bit of stress off too, and myself as well. You know, I got extremely stressed a very long time ago when I was consistently trying to beat numbers every single session. And I know that if I'm even like, let's use the running analogy, if I'm running at 100% capacity, 100 meters, and I do that again a month later, even, I'm still probably not going to get a much degree better, right?
Not at your level anyway.
Exactly. So if your capacity of your output is so high, it would be almost like redundant to think that you should be getting progressions all the time, because you are fighting tooth and nail to be able to get that already. You shouldn't be. You're almost doing something wrong if you're seeing massive leaps in progress all the fucking time.
Yeah.
I don't believe.
Or you're just a genetic freak.
Perhaps, right?
Yeah.
Or perhaps you're doing other things. But I think that those progress. So what I'm trying to get across here is some of the clients will say, or even possibly ourselves, oh man, it's been like a couple of weeks since I've progressed. And you'll go watch a JP video and the guy nearly shits his pants because he got an extra 2.5 pound plate aside in 6 weeks. Like, bro, they're not going to come all the time. We just want to see this over.
Like you said before, though, sometimes it just feels easier.
Sometimes, bro, you wake up, like what Jay Cutler used to say. They go, oh, how much do you lift, or whatever the question was. And he goes, oh, I don't know. Some days I'm stronger, I lift heavier, and some days I'm weaker, I lift lighter. Like, he was so chill with it.
Do you deload much? Because we did speak last week on deloads.
But personally, I think that if I recognize that I need a deload, it is the time for self-awareness for me to address what I'm doing in the week. You know, I think that I shouldn't personally run into that. For me, I believe that I shouldn't run into that issue, only reduce what I'm doing and be okay doing so. You know, again, we've done this so many times. Oh, fuck. It always happens to us too. What if I do less? I'm probably going to get less result. And the biggest thing that I've done recently of that and have to push my mind was being okay with massively reducing my protein intake. And that probably stems into the second half of this podcast. We'll talk about that later. But I personally won't do a deload. I would just rather readdress what I'm doing in the week to try and stave that off. And that's just me and what I do. Yeah. Doesn't have any reflection on anyone else. I would rather do less than have to. And like I said prior was, I'd rather run over recovered than scraping the edge of having to try and get these recovery metrics, because might have shit sleep one day, might miss meal one day, might have to go here, go there, and it might totally fuck all that off.
I still like deloads just because obviously there's more than muscle going on. There's joint recovery, mental recovery, just a week off for life. I feel like there's always going to be benefits from deload, not from tissue, but from tendon repair, mental repair. And just coming back fresh and knowing you've got maybe starting a new program, or you can start from 3RR again. I feel like there's always justification in just a little bit of a reset. Now, it doesn't have to be a week, but there needs to be some form of deload every 6 to 8 weeks.
We program in a way that requires a deload.
Yeah. We adjust volume to make sure you're hitting a wall at that 6 to 8 week mark.
I think that a deload is a good option for, again, this conversation could probably be directed to the demographic, right? So
but you're right. If you find the right volume for you, you can basically go indefinitely.
well, let's say the demographic of the competitive bodybuilder is typically a robotic thing for 20, 30, how many X amount of weeks, right? So we have that person being no holidays, no breaks, like even if they are sick, they still do it. Other percent of people, holiday, oh, I was sick for a few days, I had to go pet sit, I had to do just deload seem to occur in people's lives at least once a fucking month anyway. It just seems to be, they don't fucking need it because it's just happening all the time. But if you're like Andrew and Cam and yourselves, you have these 20, 30-week blocks of just roboticism, then those present themselves because it's just consistency all the time. And also they present themselves in the data as well, because you can be like, oh, Andrew, your lifts are a bit fucked and this is fucked and this is happening. I'd probably have a week off or something, right? And then the fix is necessary. So
I've had that plenty of times where I've like preemptively planned a deload for a client, and they're fucking sick 4 weeks into it. Okay, well that's your deload week.
Yeah, there it is. I do, bro. They're like, oh, I was sick. I'm like, cool, there, that solves that problem.
I had people like, oh, surely you cheat. You got your wedding anniversary coming up. I'm like, I'm in prep. It's leg day or whatever day it was. I'm like, it's gym and I'm on the meal plan. I'm not going out with the missus. It's just a normal day. This is what it is. We'll wake up for it next year if we're in off season. That to me, it's like bodybuilding is always up the top. But I don't expect clients to obviously be like that because they don't put it up here. They've got family, anniversary, life, and then their bodybuilding's here. So I treat that accordingly. If people want to put it up there, that's how I treat them.
Yeah, and that's the demographic conversation. And I think also, like, we have to understand a few conversations that I've had this week is about sacrifice and goal and expectation. I don't think any of us would look at meal prepping, training, cardio, things like, just the basic chores. I don't think we would view them as a sacrifice. I would view them as an endeavor that gets me closer to my goal, and I'll happily do so. Yeah. It would be a sacrifice for me to go play golf today for 8 fucking hours. I don't play golf. Maybe someone else loves it, but that would be a sacrifice for me to do that. I think that we need to revisit the word sacrifice in this endeavor. It shouldn't be a sacrificial thing because it creates negative connotation. I think it should be a very welcomed endeavor. But if you don't want to do that, and I've had convos this week, I want to still do this, I still want to bender, I still want to do that, but I want to look like you, Josh. And I'm like, okay.
Can't have your cake and eat it too.
Well, it's like you either increase your sacrifice, right, or the word that's better suited for that, or decrease your expectation and or goal, right? So that's a big thing that I think guys need to understand.
How many times do people say to you, I don't know how you do it. It must be so fucking hard being a prep. You don't get to eat, you don't go out. And I'm like, no, you think it's hard because you don't enjoy it. To us, it's fucking easy because we fucking love it. That's what people don't understand. It's like discipline, motivation. It's like, that's irrelevant for us because we do it because we wake up and be like, right, we got fucking gym now and snap now and meals. Like we're not missing out on anything.
Well, I would say, where's the guy with the gun to my head?
Yeah. It's not hard if we want to do it. It's like, I don't know, something I don't want to do. I got to do that. Like say, someone told me, you have to learn to be a doctor at uni. I'm like, man, that's going to be so fucking hard. I don't want to do this shit because I don't want to do it. But like, that's hard for me. And they'll be saying to those guys, I'm like, you can do it because you like this stuff. You want to be a doctor. It's the same. I'm like, they don't understand. They're like, when you enjoy something, it's not work.
No, it's not a sacrifice either, because again, it's all correlative to the goal. I just don't see it as a negative thing, and it's funny. Everything's always worse. So they say in psychology, I think everything is worse in your mind, right? It's always worse up here until you experience it. Yeah. So, for example, how bad is it when you go to family dinner and you bring your meal and you're like, fuck, everyone's going to cuss me out. And you just go, hey guys, got my own food. I'm in prep, blah, blah, blah. And they just go, oh yeah, cool. No worries. Like, it's not an issue. This stuff's not an issue.
Especially when you do it for years and your family just expects it.
They're just like, fuck, that's just him, Mr. Autistic over there.
My mum all the time, which is like, my birthday's coming up. I'm thinking about going out for dinner, but if you want to be here on dieting, maybe we'll just come around and we'll have a coffee. Because it's just, she knows.
Yeah, I'm not going to feel bad about it, and don't try and make me feel bad about it.
So we'll just quickly recap a bit. So obviously, comparing outcomes biology is different. Low volume for someone like you, Andrew, might be 4 sets, but someone for other one, they might need 8 sets, and that's their low volume.
Yeah.
There's still some biological differences.
Mhm.
Same, different training, different calories, different protein intake. There's always going to be people there's obviously a range, and people will slide in that range.
Yep.
We've been talking about low versus high volume. We haven't touched on anything about surplus size because I know you want to talk about that.
We'll jump in that real quick.
We might even have to extend these to more podcasts because we're only going to be an hour. This might just have to be a volume one, and then we might have to do another one, get you back on for the protein intake and the
Cool.
surplus.
Love that.
But yeah, so we've done high versus low volume, define the camps clearly, which we talked about hard sets. You're even talking about reps, not like getting rid of the sets completely. We're talking about intensity with driving slow and fast, and people that don't know intensity yet, unfortunately, might need to do more work, more sets, or more reps because they don't understand intensity.
Yeah.
We're a little bit progress driven because obviously there is some kind of thing if you're bench pressing 100 for all year, there's obviously something wrong. There needs to be some kind of progression. You need to get stronger
For sure.
for low volume because obviously sub max effort means more work. Accumulated stimulus over time, which is like progression weeks, possible deloads, fatigue.
I think real quick, if you touch on a couple of the things in regards to fatigue, the benefits of lower rep ranges and things like that. A lot of the guys are like, oh, the lower reps hurts my knees and hurts my this and hurts my that. And I'm like, I understand, but it's part of an adaptive process of those
Adaptation.
Yeah, tendons and ligaments. I said, all I'm doing is making you less injury prone in future. You understand that you don't get those adaptations from lighter loads. And if anything, you're actually probably going to run into overuse injuries of doing the higher stuff anyway, or possibly more injury prone from, imagine the breakdown in form of someone doing 20 fucking reps because you're so gassed.
They do say high volume beats up the joints more.
I bet it does. And then you have
that would also be genetics as well.
Yeah, and then you have the lower reps. You're looking at less peripheral fatigue, less central nervous system fatigue, less calcium ion fatigue. So you're just running into less I believe you're just running into less issues over time.
And what does less fatigue mean? Better sleep, better recovery.
All of that shit.
Yeah, better growth.
And
but we all agree mechanical tension is needed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mechanical tension times effective reps times recoverability. That's basically the main three things.
I think that mechanical tension is all boiled down to getting enough of the reps that move slow with high intent, and doing enough of those that occurs to hypertrophy over time.
Yeah, so you're definitely looking at some kind of tempo reduction as your set comes in, which means you're getting closer to failure.
Not on purpose.
No, not on purpose, but that's what I mean. Like as you're doing your set, obviously rep 1, and then that's say you're going for 10, that 7, 8, 9, as they slow down, you're getting your failure. That's how you can know.
And personally, I'm trying to achieve that slow rep or the slowing of the reps as quickly as possible. I'm trying to run into that as fast as that. What's my little? I got like a little fucking.
And are you trying to are you prescribing like reps in reserve? Or you
personally, I now because I understand that my personal, it's like not a hero statement, but I believe that my personal ability to go through pain, I think, is too much for digging a hole. So I've had to really understand that my version of failure is far beyond most people's version of failure. And I personally had to bring myself back a little bit and be like, all right, Josh, without any further movement or adjustment in literally that sort of like last
full
rep,
mechanical failure.
Am I going to get another full rep out of this or not? And if I go, I don't think so, I leave it. And that's it. I won't even approach the failure rep or the ability to maybe fail it, even that 90, 95% of the rep. It's digging the hole that I don't want anything of. So I'll call it on that rep before that. And that seems to have really helped me understand and improve my recovery and just stop me from digging that hole, bro, because I'll just get so CNS burnt out that I'll be fucked.
One rep won't make you, but one rep will break you.
It definitely will.
Yeah.
Do it all the time.
Like you're saying, that one rep, might mean progression next workout.
But literally, and I've seen it happen all the time.
I do think though there is some justification in you can go slightly bit harder in the off season than prep.
I think that the benefit for failure is to know where it is.
Which is a learning curve for a lot of people.
Yeah, you don't unless you approach it, you don't know what it is or what it feels like or everything that's intact with that, And I think you have to be able to be I think the biggest thing when you approach those reps is stillness, being as still as fucking possible. Because whenever
proper mechanical, like you're pushing like this,
there is
nothing. As soon as people start going, nah,
game over, man. Fucking game over. And I train with a buddy on a Wednesday. We do legs. And like the biggest movement that I pick up for him is like the 45-degree extension, right? And I'll watch the lower back, and we'll have this. Everything will be perfect. And then as soon as I see this happen a little bit, I just tap him. I'm like, that's it, game over. It's done. So you need to ensure that you have to be so still in failure, because otherwise you're just taking the tension off. It's game
I always
over.
tell people if they're doing the extension, like, what are you training, your legs or your body?
I just say don't fucking
training your fucking quad. So if anything's moving but the quad, you're fucking not training the quad anymore. Because straight away, if you're moving any of your body, you're taking tension off that muscle.
Yeah, game over. I just tell them, bro, like, I get to that point. I'm just like, don't fucking move. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, don't fucking move. Like, don't move anything. And if you can understand that and get through that point where your body's basically saying, hey, this thing is trying to kill me. If you can get over that whole mental thing, I believe your sessions will be a lot more fruitful, because you're just allowing the tension to be placed where you want it to be placed in the most crucial moments.
So
yeah, I've had to learn that, like, because way I used to train before I started pulling back a little bit.
Yeah,
was like just push the fucking thing until you can't push it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm so that's what people don't understand, right? When you're like one set's hard when you're focusing properly, because we're thinking about, we're keeping the tension in the muscle. We're doing, like, a set's hard. Like, you got to focus. Like, people like you see, like, they talk when they're training. Like, how do you talk, man? People talk to me during a set. I'm not even listening to you. I'm thinking about what I'm fucking doing.
Someone once sent me a video. I was like, I'll send me videos of your leg day. They sent me a video of leg extension while video on the leg extension. I'm like, don't even fucking worry about it, bro. Don't worry about it.
I've had clients send me videos, and I'm like, where's your working set? They're like, yeah, that was it. I'm like, bro, that was a warm-up set. That was you weren't even trying.
I say, oh, this was a good warm-up, but make sure next time you send me the working one.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you mean? Yeah.
So obviously, going back to who thrives on low volume, strong neural drive lifters, people who can connect well, more experience, high motor unit recruitment, because one thing, like people like us, that we've got basically a perfect rep, and then you're not going to make it because all our fibers are already firing. Whereas beginners, you can see one more, they can keep going because their fibers keep recruiting. We're not like that. You literally see us, every rep's fucking perfect, and then one's fucked. You can't push because all our fibers are firing from the start. We're very good at connecting. So there that's us. People who obviously fatigue fast, which is us because we're stronger, more experienced, heavier.
Yeah.
Who thrives on high volume? Probably at the start, lower recruitment efficiency of fibers, earlier on lifters, less education, less people that are connected to their bodies. Basically, more beginner lifters. As you get more advanced to intermediate to advanced, you're gonna have to. The low volume is more beneficial. I feel. I don't think low volume is as beneficial for early on.
Well, like I said before, I think it's like, let's use 10, the number 10, a means to get to 10. You can either put a card down that has 10, or you could put multiple cards down, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So if you're unable to put 10 in full straight away, like we are able to, someone might have to pull multiple rounds to achieve 10. And I think that's where that comes from, where the high.
Like the nail analogy that we used last week, It might take us one hit of a hammer to hit it.
Yeah, there you go. That works.
It might take someone three hits to hit it.
100%.
Which is one set versus 3 sets.
That's fucking perfect. Yeah. Love that.
Well, do you want to cover anything on the high versus low volume? Because that's been an hour.
No,
maybe we'll do the protein debate on another podcast, because that's a whole nother. We can talk for another hour on the protein debate.
Give me something.
You don't need it. protein, you don't need as much as you think you do.
100%. I've gone
And
down
that
to, bro.
podcast
Okay,
facts.
well, let's wrap it up then. What's the lowest amount of protein do you go by lean tissue?
So recently,
Like estimated stage weight?
so I guess I'm about 100 kilos really, really lean, and I'll just base it on 2.2 grams of that. And it's been the best thing I've ever done. And I've grown faster. I feel better. Everything is
So that's
improved.
not low because
Yeah.
when I'm
Well,
doing uni, they hated that. So their protein intake is like 70 grams a day, basically, like
yeah.
one
And then,
one gram per kilo.
yeah. And I'll even
Yeah,
go,
but we're not talking about average individuals here.
Yeah, I
We're
know, but
talking.
that's like I tried to sign people, they hated it, man. I'm like, yeah, but these people go on the gym, they're like, doesn't matter, that's the protein.
and I'll even go as low as missing a meal, and that'll equate to 1.6 grams per kilo, and I won't see any worse of a benefit from it. And you're talking to someone that used to do 350 grams every day, no worries.
Yeah,
Like
and when say in the off season, as protein, obviously trace protein goes up, you still keep the lean protein source at like 1.6, like the lower.
no, I'll reduce it all down to
Yeah,
2.2 grams. I'll keep
okay.
keep it as flat as possible, and then the rest is just carbohydrate and
Mm.
playing around with that. And like I've been really trying to get in the weeds at the moment of understanding that you know
Well,
protein.
if you have 2.2 grams of protein per lean tissue, and you're having 1,000 grams of carbs, that's gonna be a lot of trace protein. So that probably ends up being like
Yeah,
1.6
yeah,
actual
probably
like
being
chicken
pretty
and
fucking,
meat and proper protein.
which seems to be very adequate.
Yeah.
So
Which is what? If you're 100 kilos, that's still 160 grams of good lean protein.
I think it's more than suitable,
Yeah.
bro. I think that
And
really is. And
what have you noticed being different?
my not only my grocery bill, Cam, which is
Yeah.
really fucking good. I just noticed that honestly, my propensity to have better workouts all the time, my muscular fullness, my performance, my digestion, my midsection, it has been the most unexpected beneficial thing that I've done. And to be really willingly lean into that was very difficult because I'm like, oh, bro, like Milos and everyone eat 500 fucking grams of protein. And then the thing that just allowed me to really go into that was that Danilov guy. He eats 250 grams of protein. The guy's 150 kilos and lean as fuck. And I was like, you know what? If a person that large is doing that, I'm going to give it a crack just for the simple fact. And diving on a few of the guys that I enjoy watching, like Coach Mundy and stuff like that, talking about protein intake. And honestly, it's been the best thing. I do it with all my guys now, and it's really seemed to have been driving their success in the gym massively. And they feel better. Everything's up. So it's been a really enjoyable thing. 220, sometimes less than that, bro. Grams.
And are you substituting like carbohydrates or fats for protein to bring the protein down lower?
What do you mean? Say it again. Say it again.
So let's say you've got a client having 3,000
3,000
calories,
Yep.
and then you bring their protein down. What are you replacing that with? Carbohydrates and fats, or are you just bringing the protein down?
Yeah, carbohydrate. I enjoyed listening to a lot of Chris Tuttle recently. That was really, really enjoyable. I think he has a really good outlook on
He's an
nutrition.
educated man.
Yeah, a lot of what he said, I like learning things, but I really enjoy in a non-egotistical way being sort of vindicated with my prior just thoughts. And he seems to advocate for moderate fats, which let's say 0.75 grams might be moderate for most people. So I kind of install that there, and I install like a 2.2 grams per kilo of really lean body mass. The rest is carbs, bro. And they're flying. It's been really cool to see. And
You probably
personally,
find adherence is better.
mate, massively better. Yeah, they feel great. So that for me was a big change up. And my personal belief now after this is I really believe people that need, in most cases, there are very much outliers. People need a lot less food than what they'd like to think they do. My personal opinion. Again, that can differ. Matt's got a guy that needs 6,000 calories and he's fucking 80 kilos, which is unbelievable to me. But, I think that there are outliers, but I really don't think that people need very much food at all. Yeah.
And that goes along with the enhancements as well. I think people overdo enhancements as well.
Yeah, well, like that and the natty guys, like most of my guys are natty and they don't need much food and they just keep fucking growing. I don't see it as being a huge, it's a facilitator. It's not the driver. It's facilitating it. I have this conversation with guys all the time. Bro, I wish I could eat more food. And I'm like, in a non-cunt way, tell me what you think that's going to do for you.
Yeah.
And there's no answer. And I'm like, cool. Well, we understand that it's just facilitating things. It's not driving it. Right. We've got enough. And that's what we need.
Mm.
Oh, okay, cool. And I'm like, you look leaner. You feel better. It's all good. And that's it.
Yeah, like you were saying though, like people like Milos and that, it's like, oh, they eat like obviously even Samson, like they eat a little bit more, but people got to remember he's 160 kilos.
It's a
That is
fucking
probably he probably is eating 2 grams per kilo.
Yeah.
Like people don't understand. You got 60-kilo guys starting bodybuilding, and they think they need to eat 300 grams of protein. I'm like, bro, you're 60 kilos. You're probably 50 kilos lean.
Yep. Like how much weight do you
know?
like, how much muscle do you actually think that you actually have?
Yeah.
And what are you basing that on?
The problem is they don't know because they don't even know how lean they are. They think, oh, I've probably only got 10 kilos to lose. My bro, you got like 25. That people underestimate how fat they actually are.
Yeah, I think
Like
that,
to stage, unless you've been to stage, you don't understand how fat you are.
yeah, like
If you're basing protein off lean tissue.
are you
Yeah.
basing that 1.6 to 2.2 grams off a fully inflated version of you, very lean, or is it a really dry version of you?
Mm.
What is that? I think that's where the window comes into play. Like, is it dry weight tissue, or is it nice and inflated version of you? Which version of that is it? I think that's where the window is just allowing coverage.
And then obviously there's not much to cover on proteins. We're happy with lower proteins better. We don't need a shitload.
Honestly, but I'm so convinced on low protein. Like low protein, I think is fucking game changer for me personally, and for my guys, been mad. Yeah.
Is that in a contest prep setting or off season
Well,
or both?
yeah, I dived into that as well, and I tried to understand that. How we always say carbs and fats are protein sparing, right? It seems to be. I tried to understand as to why we wouldn't just prioritize again more carbohydrates in spate of having 2.5 grams of protein per kilo. I'm like, how much more effective is 30 grams of extra protein? How much is that going to give you much of a window of protection or not? And it's I found it a little bit difficult to really understand, because if I'm having higher carbs, I'm having protein sparing effect. I'm having better workouts, which is keeping the tissue on me anyway. I think that it comes down to, hey, if there is a point where I need to lower my energy intake enough, it obviously carbohydrate needs to suffer for that. I think that's where the exchange begins to happen. I don't think it's an immediate, I'm in a diet, this needs to happen. I think that, hey, I'm getting weaker. Hey, I need the lower energy deficit to keep things going on. I think that's when we start to prioritize and shift the protein in that direction to just facilitate for your ability to synthesize protein, and also its ability to be drawn off for glucose, essentially.
Prep's a bit different than general fat.
I think that begins to sway. For the average person, they're not going to run into any fucking issues for a long fucking time. Prioritize as much carbohydrate as possible. For us, I would prioritize carbs as much as I could until the point that it required an energy demand. Then I would create a shift. That's how I would probably go about trying to do that. Yeah, keep carbs. And again, who's to say that? Well, I guess there are studies up to like 3.1 grams for natty guys. But let's say for guys like us, who's to say that we're not going to really lose much tissue anyway? We're using things to drive us and neural drive and all that sort of stuff. We'd probably be honestly better off with having more carbohydrate through the whole prep anyway. I don't know. I'm just looking at what's there, and I'm just thinking as logically as I can. I would try and have as much carb to preserve my performance, which theoretically would preserve my tissue, or at least help me build it. Protein is higher protein is going to give me a greater safety net. Okay, I can see the benefits for both. I really can.
A little bit of personal preference as well, maybe.
I think so, bro. The whole satiation thing and all that sort of stuff. I get it. I think for the natty guy getting peeled out of their mind, I think that's where the higher protein, like the high protein, starts to come into play to give him that real big safety net and pull. So yeah, I find it a bit of a difficult question. Yeah.
Is it
Personally.
like I said, there's never a black and white. It's always a grey area.
Nah,
It's,
I
it's
would.
that, and that's why when you do things like prep, you still need a coach, like a coach to help you to manage it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Unless you know what you're doing. Yeah.
yeah. I think like the biggest indicator for everything is the training. Is the
Mm.
training suffering or is it improving? If it is suffering,
And
something
your
needs.
well-being, how you feeling,
Yeah, well,
digestion, everything.
yeah, exactly. So something needs but if the digestion and all that sort of stuff was suffering, then the training would suffer. You see
Yeah.
what I mean?
Because
So
sometimes, like, you give people high days, they start farting more. I pull down their protein when I give them the extra carbs on a high day and they're fine again. So I'm like, okay, well, when those carbs go up, you don't need that protein.
yeah, bro, we've done feeds where Matt's like, all right, eat 8,000 calories today, and I'm like, where's the chicken at, bro?
Yeah.
Like, it's just not, it's fucking all trace from everything else. I'm like, this sucks.
Well, look at
But
Martin Fitzwater when he carbs up. He has like 30 grams of cooked chicken a meal.
yeah, like I agree with that. I don't see that as an issue. So yeah, Cam, that's a hard question, bro. And I think, yeah, look, the nuance in that, the nuance in all this fucking shit that we do is very vast. But I really think that we're probably covered typically in protein. I think that the training will tell us if we need to change things up and prioritize the carbs. I think always as the because that just facilitates the training. They just go hand in hand, right?
All happy with that?
Yeah.
And then we'll
So
just quickly touch on the I know you want to quickly touch on the surplus. We need a smaller surplus for growth than we think, and we should,
100%
we
fucking
we don't
agree with
need
that.
1,000 calorie surplus. We need that slight surplus just enough to put a tiny bit of weight on each week.
I agree with that massively. And I think the weight going on a tiny bit per week is just it's only a helpful metric to allow us to understand that things are going in the right direction. I don't think it is the key metric because you could put muscle on and get leaner, but it would just be difficult to see that with the eye. But it would be easier to just see that on the scale and track. So it's an easier trackable metric to put 200 grams on per week or whatever the fuck that is. It's very difficult to see 20 to 50 grams maybe of actual muscle going on per week in the exchange of body fat. I think that the calorie cost of what it takes to do this is a lot smaller than what everyone likes to believe, and I have seen that in myself, and I've seen that in the guys, and I think that holds fairly true these days. And then one day I might be in a little bit of a deficit, the next day I might be in a little bit more of a surplus, and it seems to kind of work out. So I'm not too stressed about it.
Yeah, lately I've been a bit more like, well, not so trigger happy to pump up food.
Fuck yeah, 100%.
And I've just kind of, even like some guys are like, yeah, let's just leave things like weight stable this week. Let's just leave it for another week. Let's sit here for another week and then we'll reassess next week.
Yeah, I'm very, very, very cautious with food increases now, and I'll do so in very small amounts. It won't be a great deal. It's enough for them to do on a plan. It might be 100 calories or something like that, but it will be very, very few and far between because I just don't believe that they need it until there is meaningful leanness to your unproductively lean presented itself, or your weight was going backwards realistically. And I think that would call for the increase of calories or training output.
Training performance dip or something.
Yeah, training output, right? So I think those sorts of things would present themselves, but yeah, much less food than I believe what everyone thinks that they would require.
Especially when you put your clients on a slight surplus and they're like, oh, I get cheat meals now. And they go out for a cheat meal on the weekend. You're like, okay, you just blown that surplus. That 100 calories a day is now that cheat meal that you went and had 1,000 calories. You've just now done 300 calories a day.
Yeah, like for me, I keep things. You guys are probably really different here, and I love that maybe. But I'm just a huge believer in keeping things as simple as possible. I have never done higher carbs on a training day and lower carbs on a rest day. I believe carbs and in nutrition is as important on the rest day to fuel me for the subsequent day. Why would I go into the subsequent day with less fuel in the body when I know training isn't very demanding in terms of the calorie output anyway? So I keep things same all the time.
Yeah.
And that's how I've always done it. And heaps of people probably disagree with me there, but again, it keeps things super simple for prep, for meal prepping and shit. And I just see the nutrition as beneficial on the rest day to get into the system for the next day.
Yeah, some days I change because people like it. But
Yeah.
because sometimes I don't like when people start thinking though, oh, I want it to be a gym day so I can eat more. I hate that. I'm like,
Shut up.
they
How
ain't,
much?
they ain't.
Like, how many calories do you think you burn at the gym, bro? Your
Yeah.
watch is lying to you, man.
If anything, you're probably going through more calories on the rest day sometimes because you're growing.
Well,
That's when you're recovering.
Well, it's 2 hours, right? Driving, training, all the rest of it, right? Of you not fucking about. So you're probably out walking and doing other shit outside, going to shops, doing this, catching up with a friend. You probably burn more calories on the rest day.
Mm. All right. That's pretty good there. When there, I'm going to go eat.
Get it, boys?
That was a good solid hour. Fucking, that was a good podcast. Yeah, that was good.
I talk far too much shit. So
That was good. I hope people will take a lot from that. People will take a lot from that.
But a lot of it is just, look, I say a lot of things. I try and research as much as I can. And I think that everyone needs to understand that a lot of the stuff that I conclude, I feel like just makes logical sense to me. And again, it aligns as much with the reading that I have. Some of it is probably fucking way off. And I would love to just learn more. So pull me up to send me the fucking study. I would love that.
We'll have this same podcast in a year and we'll see if your views have changed.
Yeah, massively.
Could be even less. Could be even less protein.
Yeah, even less.
Yeah. Bro doesn't eat protein at all.
It could be one. Yeah.
You're like, I'm eating 1,000 grams of protein. I'm training 10 sets of muscle group.
Might be a vegan run clubber. Who knows, bro?
Oh, thanks for coming on. Thanks for
much appreciated.
Sharing your opinion.
I thoroughly enjoy it, and it helps me understand things in a greater way. And I think it's really good if we can have these, good opinions. And the best part, you can have good discourse, and it doesn't mean shit. You know what I mean? It's great. You have differing opinions or whatever. Fucking bring them to the table. It's great. This is the best thing for it because we can all understand. If I say it in a certain way, or you or Cam say it in a certain way, that might resonate with X person because the way you said it was just perfect for them to get it. So it's only helping us understand it further, but also hopefully someone else out there as well, which is great.
All right, so everyone, take from this podcast what you will, and everyone, you guys enjoy your week, and we'll talk soon.
Love you guys. Appreciate you. Good luck with keep crushing it, bro. Keep smashing.
I got the best coach in the world, mate.
You sure do.
All right, take care, guys. Peace out.